for today, you are going to remove inappropriate attitude and behavior while you conduct a research. Saying so, the video lesson you're watching is about the ethical standard in writing research. Once again, hello to all my ecom learners and to everyone who are here with me today. I am Teacher Claire and my channel offers video lessons for students and some more varied educational contents. If it's your first time here, I'd be so glad to have you with me in my YouTube journey. So please click the subscribe button, like this video as well, and click the bell icon for you to be updated on my next video contents. Today, I would only focus on 5 among the ethical principles in research, which I believe you really need to know. However, before I start talking about these 5, let me first have the meaning of ethics using this short clip. So watch this.
How many decisions do you think you make each day? If you ask the internet, the answer will range from 70 to 35,000. If you ask us, it's the wrong question to be asking at all. That's because we're interested in ethics. We're not concerned about the quantity of your decisions. We care about their quality. You might want to think of ethics as a tool that helps us create the difference between a good decision and a bad one. Ethics is the branch of philosophy that asks the practical question, what should we do? This leads to the study of things like values, principles, beliefs, and norms. These are the things that shape our choices. Ethics asks us, how should we live? What choices should we make? And what makes our lives worth living? It tries to help us define the conditions of a good choice and then figure out which of our available options is the best one. Let's say a close friend, Lee, confides in you that they're struggling with depression. They're feeling isolated and alone, but whenever they're invited to go out, they find it impossible to do. Lee insists they don't want anyone else to know. They're trusting this information to you alone. A few days later, another friend comes to you, frustrated about Lee. Lee's flaked on plans at the last minute yet again, and your friend has had enough. They've decided they just won't bother inviting Lee out anymore. So you're torn. If Lee stops being invited to things, the isolation could make them feel even worse. Sharing information about their depression might help Lee be treated with more empathy and compassion. But it would be a breach of trust. And if Lee found out, especially in a vulnerable state, who knows what might happen? What do you do? Keep the secret and allow Lee to be socially isolated? Or break Lee's trust, but do it for their benefit? Answering this question means getting clear on what matters, our values and principles. Our values are the things we hold to be good and therefore care about most deeply. Things like justice, knowledge, family and equality. In this case, we're likely to value both trustworthiness and compassion, which pull us in different directions. So it looks like an appeal to values alone won't let us solve this dilemma. We don't just need to know what's good, we need to know what's right. This is where principles come in. They help us draw a line in the sand. They determine the acceptable ways of getting the things that we value. So what's our guiding principle with regard to Lee? Some people might adopt a principle like be true to your word, meaning you keep Lee's confidence no matter the risks. Others might be inclined towards a principle like act in people's best interests and decide that it's in Lee's best interest that people know about the depression. Of course, there are still ambiguities, which is part of what makes ethical decision-making so complicated. So how do we select which values and principles to adopt? And how do we make choices when we face a conflict of values and principles? Good versus good, right versus right. What helps to orient our judgment is a connection to purpose. What's our guiding North Star? What's our reason for being? Think about Lee again. Now, think about the purpose of friendship. What are friends for? Think about why Lee decided to tell you in confidence. Your purpose as Lee's friend is to share their life with them, the highs and the lows. But it's their life and it's their decision on who they share it with. Lee chose to share this information with you alone. Given this, even if you prefer to act in people's best interests, thinking about purpose and thinking about Lee's purpose might encourage you to take a different path. Every time we make a choice, we change the world. What kind of world do you want to live in? Whether you make 35,000 choices a day or just one, what's important is that you make choices that are good and right. Choices you can justify, ones you can be proud of. That's what makes the choices actively yours.
That video clip has definitely demonstrated what ethics is. Ethics is simply concerned with what is good and right for individuals and the society. It centers on our moral philosophy and is certainly significant when it comes to writing a research. There are a number of ethical principles na kailangan natin i-consider whenever we write a research, whatever kind of research it is. But at the core, this ethical standard and principles stress on two essentials. One is known as beneficence, which means do good. Siguraduhin mo that the research you are making is for the good of everyone. In particular, in the field of education, our major target is always for the benefit of the learners like you. Laging para sa bata. At hashtag para sa bayan. The second one is non-malfeasance, meaning do no harm. Dapat ang research study mo ay hindi binuo para manira ng reputasyon ng isang individual, isang organisasyon, or ng kung ano paman. Lagi nating iisipin ang purpose natin is to be part of the solution of a certain existing problem and not adding to the burden. From these two essentials rise the 5 major ethical principles a researcher has to embrace. So let's talk about them one by one. The first one is obtain informed consent from potential research participants. We may consider this as the foundation of the research process. Kasi hindi naman uusad ang research mo not unless you have the participants. Let's put it this way. Informed consent means dapat malinaw at klaro sa research participants ang mga information na kakailanganin niyang ibigay kaugnay sa research study na ikinoconduct mo. Further, they should also be aware of the purpose of the research, the methods being used, the possible outcomes of the research, as well as associated demands, discomforts, inconveniences, and risk that they may face. Next, we have minimize the risk of harm to participants. There may be instances or an instance that participants could be harmed or put in a position of discomfort. What we should ensure as a researcher is to ready a strong justification for this and to set a concrete plan to at least reduce inconveniences. What are the examples of harm I'm talking about? Una, emotional and psychological impact of the study. Pwede itong mag-cause ng stress sa participants. Let's say if ang research mo is about something a little personal on the end of the participants like teenage pregnancy. Kaya dapat ang participants mo ay aware sa magiging contents at takbo ng research study para maging ready din sila sa mga personal information that they need to reveal as part of the study. Another is invasion of privacy and anonymity. This is the reason why we highly needed to get their consent. The third in the list is protect their anonymity and confidentiality, just like what I have said. In relation to minimizing the risk of harm to participants, we have to protect their privacy and confidentiality by means of using other names or pseudonyms a substitute of their real name. Or we could just simply put them into anonymity, which is the condition of being anonymous. Hindi rin natin sila pwedeng pilitin to give as many information as we need because the giving of such is on a voluntary basis, especially information of a private or sensitive nature. Then we have avoid using deceptive practices. This principle demands that participants enter into the research voluntarily and with adequate information. Meaning, dapat alam nila ang takbo ng proseso, like kung anong method ang gagamitin ni researcher in collecting data. Because if participants are given incomplete or misleading information about what to expect during the study's activities, it would definitely compromise their ability to give fully informed consent. Kailangan natin na iwasan yung tinatawag nating incomplete disclosure of the research process and everything about the study. To our participants, dapat alam nila lahat ng kailangan nilang malaman bago pa man sila magbigay ng kanilang final consent. And the last in line is, give participants the right to withdraw from your research. We have to give our participants the right to review research materials which will be used in the study and the right to withdraw from the process. Lalo na kung hindi nila kaya eventually to reveal yung mga later information needed in the study. Ibig sabihin, bilang researcher, dapat ready tayo on situation like this na kung saan kahit na malapit na tayo sa finish line, ay may possibility na may participant na mag-back out. Definitely hindi natin sila pwedeng awayin or sisihin kung maantala man ang finalization of our research study. It is our duty to be ready on that. Participants could even withdraw even without explanation. These are few among the most important ethical standards and principles we all have to follow when we construct and undergo a research study. Let me leave you with this quote to ponder and reflect. There is a big difference between the things you do right or correctly do with that of what is the right thing to do. Thank you very much for listening and watching this video lesson.